right, everyone. A lot of mixed emotions this morning when it comes to a book title called Fire and Fury, right? You're going to hear all about it all day long. You'll see it all over social media. It's written by Michael Wolff. He's a journalist. He had access since after the inauguration, right, into the White House. With Trump's White House. And now he's released a book. We're learning, Walt and Rob, because we've both been really invested in the story, ahead of time. This book was not supposed to come out today, giving all the details.
There was a leak that came out, so the publisher decided, since the leak is out, we might as well get this thing out a few days early.
Why is Trump freaking out?
Well, there's a lot of stuff in here that's not complimentary. It's questioning his mental stability. There are a lot of things that Steve Bannon said in this book that are not complimentary to the president's family. And Bannon is the guy who pretty much is going off here. So he's on the record. He said what he said. The president is extremely upset. But the president did give access to Michael Wolff. Wolff says that
saying he didn't.
Well, Wolff said he had 3 hours with him in here. And I don't know, and I think that maybe the president's, Sarah Huckabee Sanders said that he had time with him. So there's conflicting stuff in here, but it's apparently a very interesting read. If I'm the president, I am definitely not happy about this. And he's launching a counterattack against Wolff, saying he's embellished things before in other books, and Bannon is, whatever. There's a rift there.
He's a liar. He's
there's just
lying in the past.
There's a lot of he said, she said, and this has been, indicative of a lot of things we've seen in the White House so far, where the president's saying something didn't happen and other people are saying something did happen. So you have to, I haven't read the book. I've seen a lot of excerpts here, but they're basically, a lot of stuff is questioning the president's mental stability. There's some funny things in here. Apparently, the president's daughter was telling people how he does his hair, and that it was a scalp reduction, and it's a whole process in the morning of a lot of stuff going on. So there is some lighter stuff in here, but
whether you love or hate Trump, it's a behind-the-scenes piece that we all want in on, which is why there were lines outside of bookstores this morning.
Yeah, there was one DC bookstore, a physical one, that was going to sell the book. They opened up at midnight and they sold out in 2 hours.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think.
Yeah.
And online.
Let's be honest, this is a must-read for Democrats. And for people who don't like the president, they're just reading this, and it's like a late Christmas. And what I'm seeing on my feeds today is from the supporters of the president saying the fake news media is having a field day with this. Now, if President Trump says this is not accurate, there is a large amount of people who will go, well, president says it's not accurate, it's not accurate, and it's fake, and it's all designed to get at the president, as everybody's trying to get at the president. So it's almost like if let's say all of this is true, I'm just saying whatever, I'm sure some of it is, some of it isn't, but if all of this is true, to the supporters of the president, you can't put a dent in that. There's a laser focus. There's a laser focus that there's always going to be subliminal and collateral damage that goes along with the president. But the most important thing is his agenda. How's your 401k these days? How's the Dow these days? To a lot of people, that's the bottom line. And the rest of this is noise.
And Wolff, the author of this book, Fire and Fury, if you're just chiming in right now, he was on the Today Show this morning.
Yeah, he's making the rounds.
Well, from my understanding, he gave them an exclusive interview where he goes on the record and says, I will tell you the one description that everyone has in common. They all say he, talking about the president, is like a child. And what they mean by that is he has a need for immediate gratification. It is all about him. 100% of the people around, senior advisors, family members, every single one of them questions his, again, the president, intelligence and fitness, or fitness for office.
The president's family is questioning his fitness for office. That was in there?
It says senior advisors, family members, every
single. That's what he was saying. I watched the whole interview this morning.
How'd it go?
And it's about 6 minutes. It's worth watching because, we're pulling quotes and, stories, but you have to hear the author in his own words. And he says he stands behind every word that he wrote. They said, well, everyone's questioning your past books and your past work. And he said, I've never issued a correction. People take issue with how the story is told. but as far as factual information, I'm a journalist. Savannah Guthrie, who's on the Today Show, brought up, well, there are claims that you have recordings of some of these conversations. If that's so, will you release them? He kind of tap danced around that. And I think what he was trying to get at is that he kept those as a journalist to make sure that he got the story right.
Sure. Yeah, and it's also evidence in case he gets sued that it's like, okay,
I'm sure at that point he wouldn't release
why don't you listen to this?
Right.
You know, that's backup. You got to have backup.
And I think that you will not see these tapes unless it goes to court.
Yeah.
Because,
or are these tapes a bluff? I mean, there's always that other side, right?
Right. And so, one of the things I thought was kind of interesting was he sort of backed off a little bit and said, I'm not going to point out specific people and specific moments in some of how I'm going to describe these conversations and why I came to these conclusions. One of them, he said, 100% of the people that he talked to in the White House, including members of his family, believe that he's unfit and unprepared to serve as president.
That's shocking to me that any family members would say that about their own father or father-in-law or something. That's pretty shocking to me.
Shocking. I mean, 100%. What, if anything in this world, are we 100% certain about? But these are the words that he's saying, and he's standing behind this book. And this is what's interesting about this is there's a lot of stuff happening in the background. A lot of, Obamacare and how that got all worked out and it didn't happen. That's kind of complicated.
Yeah.
And the tax code. That's complicated. That was passed and signed by the president. There's a lot of issues that are just complicated when you're busy. This kind of stuff is reading a book, and it's about people, and it's about stories, and it's colorful language, and it's already a bestseller. So for a lot of people, their first sort of proactive decision to be part of this political discussion and to try and understand what's going on a day-to-day basis is going to be this book. Whether it's totally accurate or it's totally not. This is going to really dictate what's going to happen, I think, over the next 3 to 6 months, because this is someone who's on the record, who's got tapes apparently, and this is the story that they're telling, and it's accessible to people. That's the thing. News stories here and there, but a book that's all prepared that you can read in a couple days. People are buying it, and this is going to be a story that's really going to dictate the conversation about what's going on behind the scenes.
It holds the top 3 spots right now. If I can ask really quick, Chris, I know you're in digital right now. It holds the top 3 spots. Is it on Amazon in terms of sales? Okay, on Amazon.com. People have ordered this book, hard copy, paperback, and digital. Which is interesting because you said accessibility to anyone and everyone who wants access, especially the digital side.
Yeah, the book is just out, so the hard copy is going to be obviously hot, and digital will be hot too. Yeah. The paperback, I can't speak to that, but for me, if I were to take the president's side in this, Steve Bannon has his own agenda. He's got his own thing to grind. He's quoted a lot in this book, so they need to work that out. I mean, that's between Trump and Bannon, and a lot of stuff Bannon says is like this. But Bannon said some stuff, and he knew it was on the record, to an author about that the president's daughter is as dumb as a bunch of bricks. And I mean, that's pretty inflammatory, especially if Bannon claims to be on the same page as the president in a lot of, Republican or conservative issues going forward. The other stuff, it would seem that the president did give access and talk to this guy for 3 hours, which isn't a lot when you're writing a book about the White House to only get 3 hours. But if he was granted access, he was granted access. When you talk to an author, everything's on the record. That's how that goes.
That's how that goes. Trump knows he's an author, but at the time, did he know that Wolf was going to be writing a book? And that's what and Wolf says. I didn't disclose the fact that I'm interviewing you for the book, but I was there as an author. So
maybe
could
the president
this backfire in any way?
I think where it splits is that perhaps the president had an idea that this would be a complimentary book. And I think that you give access. Everybody talk to my friend Michael here. He's writing a book about us. And then the book comes out, and it's not what you thought it was going to be. Clearly, this is not.
But you still give access.
And then it's like, okay, let's have a meeting. This book is out. We're getting late. How do we handle this? Strategists come in and say, you got to attack this guy because he had some suspicious things before. We need to deny everything. We need to go at Bannon. we've got to deny that so-and-so said this and said that, and everybody's crazy, you know, and this is not true. Bingo. The president says a lot of this isn't true. His followers are going to fall right in line with that. But if Wolf does have recordings, which most authors or reporters, I mean, even newspaper reporters record this because they could come back on them. And they have proof. Because if you're just taking notes, in this day and age, that doesn't work as well.
And I think the focus, you know, when the author was doing the interview this morning, and one thing that he said I thought was really important to understand the context of the purpose of the book. He wanted to know, what was it like working with the president? And can you work with the president? Those are his two essential things. Not what is the president like, essentially. It's working within that construct. So for the president to say all of this is not true, I don't know if you can say what people are saying about you, not to your face, behind your back.
Correct.
You're assuming that what they tell you to your face is what they would be telling somebody on the record or off the record. But I think there's a disconnect here of, is it plausible that they say one thing to him and then amongst each other say something different? This may be the first time he's realizing that.
Human nature.
We all can form our own opinions about the president and about what we think the book and stuff. But I mean, to me, when it says the president has a need for self-gratification or instant gratification, I'm like, that's believable. I mean, based on Twitter, based on the, you know, oh, Kim Jong-un, you have a button, my button's much bigger than your button. I mean, you can form your own opinions, whether that's machismo, don't mess with me. Some people would look at it that way. Other people would go, wow, he does get into the weeds a lot on a lot of things that maybe a president has other things to do.
And, you know, one other thing, too, you know, there's a lot of the he said, she said, gossipy section. You know, what do they really think about each other, all that stuff. That's all interesting. That gets you to buy the book. But there are certain conclusions in the book that the author talks about and that that were mentioned in the interview that leave some sort of thing happening in the White House that will be actionable outside of this book, which is that he, amongst the people that he's talking to, they are questioning his mental stability on certain issues. And what he mentions is that over time, they interact with him on a daily basis. He'll tell the same stories again and again, and maybe he'll repeat the same story every 25 minutes. By the way, these are not my words, I'm paraphrasing.
Do you want me to quote it?
There's a lot of that in the book, that he's repeating himself a lot.
Now it's the same story every 10 minutes. So I don't know if that's true, but what the author is saying is that the people around him have noticed this, have mentioned it to him. But for the people that are opponents of the president, this is something that they may want to say, hey, is this true? What is going on here? And is this an issue ultimately for the country? So you have a book, which is things happening, maybe, maybe not, but there's something that action may come out of this for people in politics that may want to exploit this particular part of the book that the author wrote.
Everything that I've read and all the quotes and everything, as much as I can read on all of this and looking at the interview and not having the book, but if you dislike the president, you don't like the way he acts, there's nothing in this that I've seen that is of news to you. You just like, this.
It just confirms what a lot of people think, but there's also the other side.
A lot of things that I've heard and seen, and then the tweets and all this, there's nothing new for you here. Really, this doesn't break any new ground, per se. And if you are a supporter of the president, you're just like, man, this is just another thing he's got to deal with from sore Hillary losers. And but one thing here, according to Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Trump had at least one interview with Wolf. So if the president says never talked to him, he tried many times. I mean, from what we, and this was from Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I mean, that confirms that there was a meeting, and there was. So I don't know what. There's one thing.
Okay, why not? If you have all this information, I'm just trying to just see different perspectives here. You're a Wolf. I understand you're an author. You write books. But why not release this information in the form where it's not about this? And that's what some people are having an issue with. That, oh, of course you're releasing it early and you're creating and you're maybe elaborating. You're releasing a book. It's all about the money.
this is true. I mean, you know, as a journalist, you need to make some money because it's a way of living. But you're right; it will cloud people's opinion of the book entirely if they think it's all about the money. They'll discount the entire book.
Well, if you're given access to the White House, and this is a unique piece of work because it's the first of these, and I will guarantee you one thing. When the Trump presidency ends, whenever that is, in 3 years or 6 years or 7 years, the books that will come out, written by close people in the cabinet, you will finally get your answer as to what's really going on now. It's going to take time, but all the answers, all the truth will come out eventually.
Yeah.
This book
and we'll look back at this moment and go, oh, remember that moment when?
But this
were we
current
fooled or not?
This current book, I'm not sure what its release date was, but it was going to be released in a week or two. But it got leaked, so you have to release it now. These books were already
From a
printed.
marketing
They've been in
perspective,
boxes
yes.
in a warehouse. So this was already in the can, man. So this is what it is.
Okay.
You either believe it or you don't believe it.
And people are chiming in, yes. And Soraka Joe said, sold out everywhere I went. So Soraka is one who's already hitting the stores and trying to figure out what it is about this book. I'd like to understand from you, Soraka, which side of the aisle are you on? So we understand, are you someone like you mentioned, a Democrat who can't wait to get their hands on this?
Democrats
Or do
are
you
going to
support
buy this
him
book.
and wanna
Republicans
read
are
it
not going to
anyways?
buy this book.
Right, okay. Juan Cadiz, let me go on here because these comments are messing up. Reggie Cepeda, I'm sure there are White House recordings that will eventually come out. He says it's a book, wrote to make money, yes. Janet Piper, he is our president. It may sometimes be all about him, but we still need to have respect for him. It's not easy running a country.
I can't disagree with it.
Right.
Of course, it's very difficult.
Right, and to speak to the mental capabilities being questioned, I think everybody's mental capabilities would be tested big time if you were in that position.
Yeah. And the conversations that are just coming out. A lot of good morning. So we see you, Deborah Felix, Laura Womack, Janet Piper, David Wong, Gonzalez. Thank you for joining us this morning. Chime in right now. Let us know what your thoughts are on this book. Have you already tried to stand in line or try to go grab this book at one of your local bookstores? Maybe order it online. Again, it's holding the top 3 spots on Amazon right now. Fire and Fury by Wolf here. First name is Michael Wolf? Michael Wolf.
Yep.
All right. Well, shall we move on to the next topic?
Yes.
Thank you, Walker. Do you want to stick around for this one? Or are you
I
out
got
of
a
here?
jam. I got to do the 9
What's
and the
coming
midday.
up at the 9?
But if you just yell if you need me, I'll be
Very
over
well,
here.
Gray. And until then, we'll just leave the computer and chair here, maybe for my water. Okay. There we go.